In our previous module on why conflict must be resolved, we explored different types of conflicts in product development environments and the costs of leaving those conflicts unaddressed. We examined the distinction between healthy and unhealthy conflict and began developing a framework for viewing conflict as an opportunity rather than a threat. Now we're digging deeper into something at the heart of many conflicts: how we make meaning. This understanding is crucial for recognizing the root causes of team disagreements. Have you ever been in a situation where you and a colleague looked at the exact same information but came to completely different conclusions? Or where a seemingly straightforward conversation somehow led to a heated disagreement, and you were left wondering, how did we even get here? These situations happen because we all construct meaning differently. In this first of our 2 modules on meaning making, we'll explore how our worldviews shape our perceptions and how different interpretive frameworks lead to misunderstandings. We'll examine concepts like action logics and symbolic communication that can help us understand why smart, well-intentioned people can see the same situation so differently. By understanding these fundamental aspects of how we make meaning, you'll gain insights that will help you identify the underlying causes of conflicts in your product teams. Let's get started. I first encountered the concept of meaning making during my undergraduate studies in religious studies. Contrary to what many assume, studying religion at a state university isn't about becoming a pastor or studying theology exclusively. It's a critical study that combines psychology, sociology, anthropology, history, and culture. One of the core concepts we explored was worldview, how a person sees and interprets the world around them. Your worldview is the lens through which you perceive reality. It's the combination of your experiences, biases, beliefs, and everything that shapes how you interpret and understand what's happening around you. This relates directly to meaning making, which is the process by which we interpret and make sense of our experiences. Research in constructivism tells us that humans don't passively receive information. We actively construct our understanding based on our existing mental frameworks and experiences. Back in 2019, while I was working at Adaptivist, a colleague sent me an article that dramatically changed how I thought about meaning making in professional contexts. The article, 7 Transformations of Leadership, published in 2005 by David Rook and William R. Torbert, introduced me to the concept of action logics, the ways people interpret their surroundings and react when their power or safety is challenged. My colleague and I were working on coaching product teams to collaborate more effectively, with a particular focus on value stream mapping and inter-team communication. He observed that teams typically have multiple action logics in place simultaneously, and this diversity both creates conflicts and disrupts value flow. Understanding these different ways of making meaning became crucial to our work. The concept of action logics provides a powerful framework for understanding how different people make meaning and approach leadership. Rook and Torbert identified 7 distinct action logics, though all focus on a few that are particularly relevant for product teams. A belief in superior knowledge and technical skill characterizes the expert action logic. People with this action logic make meaning through analysis and technical expertise. Their strength is precision and deep domain knowledge, but they may struggle with collaboration and dismissing ideas that don't align with their technical understanding. The achiever action logic focuses on goals and outcomes. These individuals make meaning through accomplishment and measurable results. Their strength is driving toward objectives, but they might miss critical contextual factors or alternative approaches that don't fit their goal-oriented framework. The strategist action logic views situations through multiple frameworks and considers long-term implications. They make meaning by synthesizing diverse perspectives and seeing connections between seemingly unrelated ideas. Their strength is systems thinking, but they might overwhelm others with complexity or seem detached from immediate concerns. The individualist action logic questions conventional wisdom and values personal authenticity. They make meaning by challenging assumptions and exploring unique perspectives. Their strength is innovation, but they may create unnecessary conflict by questioning established processes. It's important to note that while people typically operate primarily from one action logic, individuals can evolve and develop the capacity to understand and utilize other action logics. This growth doesn't necessarily mean one action logic is better than another. Different contexts may require different approaches. However, developing versatility in making meaning gives you more tools for navigating complex situations. As a product leader, you'll work with people operating from all these action logics, and you have your own action logic too. Understanding these different ways of making meaning isn't just theoretical, it's practical knowledge that helps you communicate effectively, resolve conflicts, and build collaborative teams where these different perspectives become strengths rather than sources of friction. When people with different worldviews and action logics work together, conflict naturally emerges from these other ways of making meaning. Let's explore how this happens in product teams. Consider a situation where your team is planning a new feature. A team member operating from an expert action logic might focus intensely on building the most technically elegant solution, regardless of what was originally assigned. They believe they're doing the right thing by pursuing excellence in their domain, but this creates conflict when their approach doesn't align with immediate business priorities or resource constraints. From your perspective as a product leader, you might be making meaning through a different lens, perhaps focusing on market timing or customer needs. Neither worldview is wrong, but the misalignment creates tension. The expert isn't being difficult intentionally. They genuinely believe they're doing what's best based on their meaning-making framework. This kind of conflict often emerges around quality and scope discussions. You might request a solution that can be implemented quickly to meet a market opportunity. At the same time, a team member might resist because they believe it's impossible to build something of acceptable quality within that time frame. The conflict isn't about laziness or unreasonable demands, but fundamentally different interpretations of what quote-unquote good work means in this context. Research shows that these meaning-making differences extend across professional disciplines. Different backgrounds create different interpretive lenses. Designers, developers, marketers, and business stakeholders all bring unique perspectives, shaped by their training experience. A designer might prioritize user experience, while a developer might focus on technical scalability, and a marketer on messaging and positioning. Each perspective is valuable, but when they clash, conflict emerges. The key insight here is that these conflicts aren't just about differing opinions. They're about different meaning-making systems coming into contact. Understanding this deeper source of conflict is the first step toward more effective resolution strategies. Building from our exploration of worldviews and action logics, let's examine another crucial concept for reducing conflict: shared symbols and language. While studying religion in college, I went deep into the study of symbology, the examination of symbols and how they create meaning. A symbol, by definition, is something with a collectively agreed upon meaning. For instance, when we see a dollar sign, we immediately understand it represents currency in the United States. $1 means $1, and $100 means $100. What makes symbols powerful is this shared understanding. Everyone recognizes what a symbol means without needing further explanation. But this shared meaning is fragile. If different people begin interpreting the same symbol differently, its utility breaks down. When 10 people have 12 different interpretations of the same symbol, it no longer functions as a symbol. This concept applies directly to your work as a product leader because words themselves are symbols. We often assume everyone understands key terms the same way, but this assumption frequently leads to misunderstandings and conflict. Terms like MVP, high priority, user-friendly, or even done can mean dramatically different things to different team members. Creating alignment around symbols and language we use in our work is a powerful conflict prevention strategy. You're building a foundation for better communication and collaboration by establishing shared definitions. Without alignment, differing interpretations can lead to conflict. When words have different meanings for different people, when definitions of done vary among team members, when acceptance criteria are unclear, or when vision and strategy are interpreted inconsistently, These disconnects create friction, and this friction slows progress and undermines team cohesion. This is why professionals can examine the same information, yet draw completely different conclusions. Their varied experiences and backgrounds create distinct interpretive frameworks that shape how they understand information and what solutions they believe are appropriate. To better understand how we develop these different ways of making meaning, let's explore how we build knowledge and develop biases over time. From a constructivist perspective, learning isn't about passively receiving information. It's an active building process where we construct new knowledge on the foundation of what we already know and have experienced. Think of it as building a room. First the floor, then the walls, then adding features like hooks to the walls, and finally hanging conclusions, the items in our room, on those hooks. Knowledge builds on knowledge in a structured way. This construction process happens based mainly on our experiences and results. When we try an approach that works successfully multiple times, we naturally incorporate it into our meaning-making framework. We begin to interpret new situations through the lens of these past successes. And here's where cognitive biases enter the picture. When an approach has worked for us 10 times out of 10, we develop a strong bias toward applying that same approach to new situations. Often, before we fully understood the new context, we pattern match based on surface similarities and jump to solutions that worked previously. This bias is natural, but can lead to serious misunderstandings and conflicts in cross-functional teams. When we're unaware of our own meaning-making processes, we mistake our interpretations for objective reality. We think, this is obviously the right approach, rather than recognizing this is the approach that has worked for me in my specific context with my particular background. Recognizing your own biases is challenging but essential for effective leadership. I've found that regular reflection through journaling about my decisions and reactions helps me identify patterns in my thinking. By asking myself why I interpreted a situation in a particular way, I often discover assumptions or biases I wasn't consciously aware of. I also make it a practice to seek diverse input from people with different professional backgrounds. When facing an important decision, I'll specifically ask for perspectives from team members who I know approach problems differently than I do. This deliberate diversity of thought helps counter my natural tendency to fall into familiar patterns. Another technique I find valuable is explicitly questioning my assumptions before making decisions. I'll pause and ask, what am I taking for granted here? What might someone with a different background see that I'm missing? This simple practice helps me identify blind spots in my thinking. Finally, I test alternatives by considering how someone with a different professional background might approach the same problem. Even if I ultimately choose my original approach, this exercise helps me understand the trade-offs more clearly and often reveals insights I would have otherwise missed. In this module, we've explored the fundamental concepts of meaning-making and how our worldviews shape our interpretations of events and interactions. We've seen how action logics provide a framework for understanding different approaches to leadership and decision-making, and how these differences can lead to conflict when not recognized and addressed. We've also examined the power of shared symbols and language in creating alignment, and how the lack of shared understanding can lead to miscommunication and conflict. Finally, we've looked at how our professional lenses and biases influence our meaning-making processes and some strategies for becoming more aware of our own meaning-making patterns. These concepts form the foundation for understanding the deeper sources of conflict in product teams. You can approach disagreements with greater insight and empathy by recognizing that disputes often stem from different ways of making meaning rather than just differing opinions. In our next module, we'll build on this foundation to explore how cultural and professional differences further influence meaning making, examine specific cognitive biases that intensify conflict, and provide practical strategies for creating shared meaning in your teams. We'll also introduce the concept of differentiation from family systems theory as a powerful tool for managing emotional dynamics during conflicts. Understanding meaning making is the first step toward more effective conflict resolution. You can bridge these differences and transform potential conflicts into greater collaboration and innovation opportunities by seeing beyond surface disagreements to the underlying interpretive frameworks.